Mort, not O. Hi, I'm Mort Cooper, your host on Change Your Voice, Change Your Life in the studio. With me is my co-host, Dr. John Curtis, and we today came up with the title. John usually has the title, and what is the title today?
It's the bottom line, at the National Institutes of Health.
The bottom line at the National Institute of Health.
Yeah, National Institutes.
Yeah, National Institute of Health. What does that mean, bottom line at the National Institute of Health?
Well, it could be
that organization gets $28 billion approximately, give or take $100 million to two, for their scientific inquiry that is telling us what is real in life and what is scientific and what is not.
Yeah. Well, bottom line is, it could be Elias Zahuni's bottom line.
You can't even say that fellow's name.
Well, Zahuni. Yeah.
Who is Zahuni?
He's not a terrorist, and he doesn't work for Al Qaeda.
Who is Zahuni?
Zahuni is the head of the National Institutes of Health. And according to Zahuni, he can't keep top scientists without allowing them to have independent relationships with publicly traded drug companies, earning separate salaries through them, and stock options.
Wait a minute.
And consulting arrangements.
You're going too fast for me. Can you break it down so it's a McDonald kind of thing, where I can get it? I'm a little slow and simple. I really am.
Well, look at we're talking about the bottom line at the National Institutes of Health. They claim they can't get good scientists unless they let them double dip by doing the research.
Wait a minute.
Get a salary, a government salary.
Who is arguing about what? David Willman wrote something in the L.A. Times.
Well, David Willman is an investigative reporter for the Los Angeles Times.
And what did he investigate?
Well, he exposed something that he uncovered, which was that many of the researchers, the scientists at the National Institutes of Health, received their government salaries, but they also had seconds.
Maybe 150, 200,000.
Somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay,
yeah.
Not bad.
For the average person, I think they'd be quite content with just the government salaries they're getting. And then, on the other hand, that wasn't enough. So many of these scientists have lucrative consulting agreements with many of the publicly traded drug companies.
And they have something else that was very interesting.
Well, sometimes they get stock options.
Sometimes. And
the stock options are not recorded as an expense to the publicly traded companies.
The stock options can be where the real money is, not the salaries from the government or the salary from the
they could be worth into the millions.
Why? That's the issue that we're getting to. Why is it the bottom line at the NIH that we're discussing? What is the stock option worth to the scientists? There are, I think, 93 directors of various divisions, if I'm correct. And they can get stock options.
Oh, yeah. They can get stock options.
Now, why is this an issue that comes to the fore?
Well, because they think that it can compromise objectivity for scientists who are there supposedly finding yay or nay, does the drug or the service product that they're studying, is it safe and is it effective? It's very easy for somebody who's getting paid as an outside consultant to say, well, I'm not going to report the negative findings on my research. I'll only report the positive findings on it because it will impact my stipend or my stock options or my consulting
Which can
agreement.
be millions.
Could be into the millions.
Yeah. So that's the concern, that stock options and double dipping
it's
can
compromising the objectivity of scientists.
And what is science all about?
Well,
what is science all about?
Science is about a methodology. It's an attempt through a methodology to test hypotheses.
To be independent.
Independent and objective.
And truthful.
Yeah.
Now, the drug companies, folks, have the right, I understand, and I'm open to correction if this is wrong, but I read about it in newspapers such as the New York Times and the LA Times and other well-known newspapers. I presume it's correct. The drug companies have the right to vet or to remove information, even though they sponsored the study, that doesn't agree with their concerned outcome. So even if the scientists are objective and saying, we have doubts about this outcome and this study, what we're doing, the drug company can override the research, the scientific research, even when the individual working for the company is seeking to be independent, even though he's double dipping or he has stock options. So even if he does that, what are his chances of getting another job with that company if he says, nay, I don't agree with what the drug company is about? What are his chances?
I think it's a very good chance that he's not going to be, his consulting contract will be canceled.
Now, in a recent newspaper report in the New York Review of Books by Richard Horton, the editor of Lancet, it's a very prestigious British journal. It's worldwide,
British medical journal.
Very well known.
By the way, Lancet came out with the piece that indicated that Resolin, which was a drug to treat diabetes, was toxic, created terrible liver toxicity. It was actually taken off the market in Great Britain. They published that 2 years before it was published in any journal in the United States, 2 years in advance. So this is a very forward-thinking and independent medical journal.
Horton is of the view that science and medicine can be compromised by what's going on in research in the scientific community. And he is concerned that this can have consequences from possible compromises that are going on.
Dr. Zahuni said that
Zahuni is where?
He's at the National Institutes of Health. That's what our show is about today.
And what is his position?
He said that his researchers have the highest degree of integrity.
I have no doubt about that. What is his position?
His position is that they can't get top researchers at the National Institutes of Health unless they let them double dip.
Mm-hmm. Now, an interesting...
I think that's an interesting take on the situation, because what it really means is he can't institute a policy. He thinks that instituting a policy that says conflicts of interest, like working for drug companies and conducting research, cannot be prohibited, because we'll lose all our scientists, because they'll go work in the private sector. I mean, that's his argument. So, I mean, Congress has got a real dilemma on this right now, and there are people looking into this that are utterly baffled, because we know that there are drugs that are being approved right now that are neither safe nor effective, that are making their way onto the shelves, and people are being injured by them. Or at the very least, you talk about side effects. What about just efficacy? I mean, if you're charging money for a drug, do you think that, apart from the fact that it may have side effects, don't you think that you have a right to know that it's effective and what it does? I mean, look at Botox, for instance. The manufacturer claims it's 99% effective in treating spasmodic dysphonia, the strangled voice.
What is that? Can you imitate it?
This is why you're talking. Well, I'm going to imitate a phone call that I had with a lady in the Chicago area.
I had the same. I had a conversation with her.
Her name was Dot Sowerby.
Yeah, and she's
this
the
is what she
president.
talked. Dr. Cooper's too expensive. I can't afford his treatment.
Can you understand her?
Well, I understood. She said that you were too expensive, because I told her to go to Dr. Cooper instead of getting these Botox shots.
I offered a free treatment.
And you know what's interesting about Sowerby? Dot Sowerby is affiliated with the National Spasmodic Dysphonia Association.
She's not affiliated. She's the president of the National Spasmodic Dysphonia Association.
She doesn't work at the... She's of the nonprofit wing of that, or whatever, you know, their board. Maybe the president of the board.
She's the president of the National Spasmodic. She has written a book, Living with Spasmodic Dysphonia.
Well, what I find interesting...
And she's been on Botox for years.
Look, McAllister is the executive director.
Yeah, but she's the
she
president.
defers everything to McAllister.
Yes, that's fine. But she is the president.
And McAllister...
And I want to go back to something.
Okay.
She's on Botox.
Yes, she is. And I told her, I said, you know, you've tried the Botox treatment.
She's been on Botox for years.
That's the way she talks. And I said, why don't you try a treatment? Dr. Cooper has been curing patients of spasmodic dysphonia for the last 35 years. Don't you think you should go and try that? I said, obviously, you know, your Botox treatments are not working. That's what she says, to talk to to McAllister. So I talked to McAllister. He says, and I'm a journalist calling. I'm doing some research on spasmodic dysphonia. We don't endorse any medical treatments of any kind. We are completely politically neutral with respect to treatments in the area of spasmodic dysphonia. That's what McAllister said. Then I read an interesting article in USA Today.
They're a 501 organization that gets generous donations of money from Allergan, the maker of Botox.
Yeah. But then after talking with McAllister, I read an article from USA Today in which he was quoted. He was quoted as saying two things. Botox is a godsend, and it is the cat's meow.
No, now, he said first it's a cat's meow, and then he says it's a godsend.
Okay.
Let's get his object approach to the treatment.
Will you tell me, how does that sound like somebody who is being neutral about a specific treatment by referring to it as the cat's meow?
And a godsend?
Yeah.
Obviously, yes. Could there be any other conclusion? Could you be any other conclusion, folks? That is what I would call total objectivity.
Yeah, total neutrality.
But look, if people see things, Robert Burns said, "Will God to give us the gift to see ourselves as others see us." Perhaps if we could give McAllister back the statement as we heard it to him, he may have thought other than what he said. I'm trying to give an out for McAllister, who's a very decent gentleman, and he's defending his turf. He's an executive director of a company. He's getting paid from that company. That outfit, it's a 501c nonprofit.
That's right.
He has a nice position with them. He's a very decent guy. I've spoken with him and written. But the point is that they don't want cures there.
Okay. Here's something
I offer cures,
want you to
but they don't
explain
want
this.
cures.
Explain this paradox to the audience, because I think it is a paradox. We talked with this president of the National Spasmodic Dysphonic Association. She is currently and has in the past received Botox treatments.
Ongoing.
She has one of the worst cases of spasmodic dysphonia, unremitting cases imaginable. That's the way she talks.
No. You understood more than I did. I'm only a voice doctor. And I said, "Dot, I don't understand you. Can you repeat that?" And I was not putting her down. I simply could not understand what she said.
Just wanted to clarify.
Dot.
Okay,
look.
Why is she the president of an organization that presumably disseminates the state-of-the-art information on spasmodic dysphonia, and yet she is the poster child of the abysmal, and I mean abysmal, a bottomless pit of failure of Botox treatments in the area of treating spasmodic dysphonia? This is an off-label drug, and incidentally, Pfizer just recently has paid out over $430 million in a settlement in the case of Neurontin, using actually an anticonvulsive drug for a variety of other kinds of treatments that they used it for, including depression and so forth.
They use an off-label drug.
Right. And Botox is an
Botox is
off-label also for voice.
Do you want to explain what Botox means when it's off-label?
Well, go ahead. But
Botox, it's not directly approved by the Federal Drug Administration, so it's used for eye spasms, blepharospasms, like that, and neck spasms, torticollis, and so the medical community can use it for any purpose they see fit once it's approved directly by the FDA, and it's called an orphan or off-label drug. Pfizer was sued and paid out a settlement of $430 million. You seem to think that's a large amount. What were they censured for?
Well, they're censured basically for taking a drug that was approved for one function and then utilizing it for another, and then, of course, causing adverse side effects and ineffectual treatment.
Okay. Botox is creating serious side effects for spasmodic dysphonia. I see that in the office. I get email. It does not appear from my reading of the literature to appear there, and the organization that McAllister belongs to, the NSDA, does not report these serious side effects that I know of, but that I'm reporting.
Actually, they say the side effects are short-lived because Botox wears off.
I know what they're saying, right.
Well, is that true?
Not from my experience.
That they just wear off and the patient never has any further side effects?
Well,